Hi, my name is Jim Stone, and in today's video we're going to try and examine some components of skill acquisition. I think there's some underlying ingredients of all the skills. I think in volleyball you have to run. You run when you pursue a ball. Approaching to attack is a running motion. Going from the middle to the outside, there's some running components. So you got to make sure your players can run properly. There's also obviously a jumping component. So how do we jump mechanically correct? What do we do when we're in the air? Can we turn our body in the air without losing our balance? And then once we're in the air, you have to land, and there has to be some landing skills. There's varying postures in the game. There's a high posture when we're blocking, and maybe there's a lower posture when we're playing defense. So there's all these underlying components to skill acquisition, and what we want to do as coaches, I think, is make sure that we're not ignoring these components and making the assumption that players just naturally get better at this stuff by playing volleyball. I think you have to teach these components, teach kids how to run properly, teach them how to jump correctly. So we're going to do a series of videos here, albeit they very short. Hopefully they're relevant to acquiring the base motor patterns that will allow a player to develop their skills better. Okay, as we mentioned earlier, there's some core components to skill acquisition, and I have these three hooligans in with me today to help demonstrate. Jordan Poulter at the end, Natalie Pasick, and Haley McLaren all played for me last year, so they're all going to give an impeccable demonstration. And what we're focusing on is this part of the body, the core, and the ability to rotate the core, and how it ties into skill acquisition. Okay, so that's going to be the focus, and we're going to do a couple simple things that you can do on the court. You know, there's a bunch of stuff you can do in a weight room to develop your core, but this is on the court stuff that you can incorporate into a warm-up. Okay, so now we're going to give you examples in a live skill situation of why it's important that people have this rotational thing down. So here we are in a setting scenario where Jordan starts off facing the passers, but as the ball comes to her, just kind of balls coming in, she has to be able to get to the ball and then rotate her hips to where she wants the ball to go. So it's a rotational component, and I think that's something that has to be taught, and it's something that's really important in this skill and the other things we're going to show you. So as the ball comes in, you have, as a setter, you have to face where the ball is coming from and then be able to turn, and before she touches the ball, she's going to face where she wants it to go. If she does a good job of turning and facing, she should be able to, Natalie, you want to go behind? She should be able to at a contact point where she can set in front and behind. But it's all because of her ability to rotate her upper body into the skill. Okay, same thing, different camera angle, but notice how she waits, and then turns and sets. So this rotational movement has to be developed both in terms of the strength, but also just the skill component. Taking the same concept that we just had from the setting skill into, in this case, the defensive drill, it could be the exact same movement with a serve-receive drill in terms of we want our hips to finish where we want the ball to go. Again, and that will come from the ability to turn and rotate your core and upper body and direct the ball back to the target or middle of the court. So it'll look like this. Ready? Go. Good. Go. So as they play the ball, they want to finish back to the middle of the floor. And that's all from upper body rotation and directing the ball back to the target. So that was all to the left. Now we'll do a couple to the right. Same thing. Just move, and then they turn their shoulders back to the middle. Good. Okay, same thing. We talked about the importance of rotating when we're setting, when we're digging. It's also attacking. So as you see when Haley hits, it'll be here, her hips are open, and then as she comes through, she rotates into the ball. And then Haley, let's go ahead and hit a line shot and really try to rotate our hips as she turns down the line with lots of hip rotation. A common mistake that's made, especially with young players, is they eliminate the rotation, and I'll get on this side, and they jump here, face there, and hit there with nothing going on with the upper body. So we want to make sure that we're really incorporating this movement, just relax, this movement into the attack. So it's open, close, it's not up, down, okay? And to facilitate rotation, we don't want to get too deep in the weeds with attacking, but we want to make sure, especially with younger players, that their hand does not come up, because that doesn't facilitate rotation. What facilitates rotating is getting the elbow back, okay? So we want to really emphasize elbow comes back, that opens the hip and core up, and then we close back into the swing. So a few more. So it's open and then close. Good. Okay, same concept, but now it's from the blocking component, where she opens her hips up, gets to the point of attack quickly, but then has to rotate and close the hips back up so she's square to the net as the hitter's arm is coming through. Okay, go ahead. So it's open the hips and then close them. So open and close. Good. Okay, last one. Good. Okay, in this drill, again, we incorporate this into a warm-up, and the focus is our core and the rotation of the core. So we just start turning and handing balls off as part of the warm-up. So now we're both going to turn to the right. Yeah, this is a test. You just failed. Okay, and you can move away just a little bit and maybe really starting to extend and rotate a little bit more. Increase the range of motion in the rotational plane. Okay, good. One of the common mistakes that players make is they start shifting their feet and therefore their hips, and all of a sudden they're not rotating as much. So you notice as these players are going through this, it's just their upper body rotating, which is what you want to have. In this drill, again, we're talking about a warm-up phase of practice. They're just hopping, feet stay together, ankles stay together. You can go backwards now. Ankles stay together, and they're just rotating their hips as much as they can, so they're really driving their hips around. Again, we're trying to get where they're comfortable in the rotational phase of their core. Same type of thing, except now they're going to high knee and come across their body, and again, turning the hips. Want to make sure the knee comes up first, and then go across and really accentuate turning the hips with a little bit of hop in the jump. Okay, since volleyball is a game of rhythm, we'll establish a rhythm to what they're doing here. So every time I clap my hand, they're going to start going on their own, but the movement's still the same. So you want to make sure that they're developing a rhythm to the skill. Really trying to turn the hips, so high knee and turn the hips. Good. This is not so much a rotational drill as it is kind of an agility thing that will lead towards some rotational activities. So on the clap, again, we're working on rhythm as well as movement. On the clap, you'll see her foot pattern. And then once she gets her routine down, we'll go a little faster. So if you watch her right foot will lead, her left foot just goes opposite. Good. So in this drill, we're going to put it in a little bit more of a rotational component. We do the same thing. We have the tape lines on the floor, and it'll be fast feet as I clap my hands, go, and then whatever way I point, she quickly goes, okay? So it'll look like this. So here we go. Yeah. Good. Now, for a little variety, we're going to put in 2 90-degree turns now. So instead of just me pointing 1 90-degree and back, now it's going to be 2 and then come back. So Natalie will demonstrate. So now we're going to do 2 90-degree turns. So if I point sideways, it'll be 1. So it'll be fast feet and back. If I point to the wall, it'll be 2. Okay? All the while, she's got her feet going quickly. So it'll look like this. So fast feet, sideways, sideways. Here, 1, 2, and then back, fast feet, sideways, sideways. Good. One of the components when you're hitting is the ability in the air to turn and rotate. So, that'll be certainly the end product, and we'll do that here in a second. but as a primary move, we want to make sure people are comfortable just rotating in the air. So a real simple way to do this is they'll just take a full heating approach, get in the air, and then twist their hips as many times as possible before they land. So it'll look like this. So as they're in the air, they're going to twist their hips right, left as quickly as they can. Good, okay, that's good. And then get in the air, and then they're turning their hips as quickly as they can in both directions. Again, this is just a starting phase. This is to get, especially with younger players, getting them used to getting in the air and then rotating their hips. So now they're going to do the exact same thing, but they're going to take multiple sequential approaches. So it'll look like this. So here, shake the hips, they come back right away, drive in again, Haley can go. Good. All right, good. Okay, so much of our sport is played with your feet off the ground, and you have to be comfortable moving your body in the air. So again, this is just something you can build into your warm-up. So all they're going to do is start 90 degrees from a partner. They're going to jump straight up, turn in the air, and then they're going to throw the ball down, mostly using their core. Not a ton of arm. There'll obviously be some, but it'll be jump, in the air, turn it down, core, wrist, off the floor to their partner. So it'll look like this. Okay, and as they're in the air, when they snap down, they want to really pull with their abs, so they're rotating and pulling at the same time. So a lot of wrist snap, but mostly it's core. Okay, so as they're doing this, we want to make sure they're getting most of the energy coming from the core and the abs, not so much from their arms. So as you can see, when they finish, their hands stay fairly high, but they're really pulling down with their core muscles. So there's a lot of rotation while they're doing this, and there's also some flexion with the core. And we want this to be a dynamic move and throwing the ball hard into the ground. And we also want to make sure the players are comfortable moving both directions. So one time they jump to the left, sometimes they jump to the right, but they're in the air, rotating, and then throwing the ball down. A common mistake is going to be, if we can stop just for a second, a common mistake will be as Haley starts, she'll start turning before her feet leave the ground. And we really want her to jump high, get in this position in the air, then she turns 90 degrees in the air. So it'll look like. Okay, so we're building now in a sequence. So we want to get people in the air maybe a little bit longer than they can be if they were just jumping. So we'll have them jump off a little bit of a platform. But again, we're working on rotating. And we want to make sure we're working on rotating both directions. You know, the throwing motion is this kind of rotation. And generally players are fairly comfortable doing that. But part of being a good attacker as you leave the ground is being able to turn the other way as well. So we want to make sure they work on rotating to the right, but also to the left. So what we're going to do is have them jump off the platform, and they're going to keep the ball away from the middle. And right now, let's just all rotate to the left, and we're going to throw this direction. So as they leave the platform, their hips are open, and then their hips come through as they're throwing the ball. Okay, now let's go the other direction. So now the motion with the hips is the same. They turn before they release the ball. They're facing towards right back now. So everything we focus on is not so much the arm swing. This is all about the hips, okay? Good. Okay, so we're slowly starting to go towards transferring this rotational movement into skills. So what Jordan's going to do now is take a good crossover step to the point of attack. But again, so much of the game is played with our feet off the ground, and we have to be able to move in the air. So what we're going to have her do is touch both balls. So it'll be both hands on the outside ball, both hands on the inside ball. So it'll look like this. So, okay, keep going. So as she goes through this motion, you see, this is a rotational move where she leaves the ground not facing the attacker, she squares up in the air, but then she has to be able to move her hands in the air and still land balanced. Okay, now we're going to change it up a little bit in terms of your inside hand is going to be on the inside ball. You're going to go outside, inside. Okay, so now she's going to touch the outside ball and the inside ball with her right hand or her outside hand if we were going the other direction. So her hands are starting to move independently as she's rotating and squaring up. So she's starting to get comfortable, or what we're working on, that's good, Jordan. What we're working on is her being comfortable, just moving her body in the air without just completely losing her center of gravity and her balance. And that all reflects back into her core strength and her ability to rotate around the court. Now we're going to get into some defense and passing type things. We're going to keep the same movement as we had on with the tape on the floor in terms of she's going to start in a down position, but she's not facing me. I'll be the attacker. So when she hears her name called, without raising her head, she's going to turn 180 real quick and then dig the ball that's hit at her. Okay, so it'll look like this. Natalie. Good. Couple more. Natalie. Good. Natalie. Make sure we're starting in this posture and we're going to finish in the same posture. So when her back's to the attacker, she's in a digging posture. Then when she turns, you're going to turn, she's in that same posture. Okay, we don't want the head to come up, we don't want the arms to drop. So we start and finish in the same posture. So it'll look like this. Natalie. Natalie. Keep your head level. Keep your head level. Natalie. Good. There's so many resources for just developing core strength. You can YouTube a million exercises for core strength, but you have to take that onto the floor. And I think these skills that we went through have to be taught in terms of inside of a skill, there's a rotational component that's extremely important. So that was the purpose of this video, to show you how literally in every skill you're going to be rotating your upper body to accomplish the skill correctly. So thanks to these guys for a wonderful job of demonstrating.